All right, today we are pulling back the curtain on a digital heist of absolutely epic proportions. This is the story of a ghost in the machine, a ghost that went completely undetected for 4 years, all while stealing the secrets of 500 million people.
So, let's rewind. It all kicked off back in July 2014. An unauthorized actor, this digital ghost, silently slipped right into the Starwood Hotel's network. No alarms went off, no sirens, absolutely nothing. Just silence.
And here's the part that is just mind-blowing. That ghost, it didn't just stay for a night. It lived inside their network, completely unseen, for over 4 years.
So that's the central mystery, right? How in the world did this invisible threat manage to hang around for so long, living right under everyone's noses? Let's get into it.
I mean, just look at the sheer duration here. The initial break-in, that was 2014, but it wasn't until September of 2018, a full 4 years later, that some internal tool finally flags something suspicious. In cybersecurity, we call this dwell time. And a dwell time this long is, well, it's almost unheard of. It's staggering.
So how did he stay hidden for that long? Well, the answer lies in one of the biggest corporate mergers of the decade. A merger that, it turns out, created a massive security blind spot.
In 2016, Marriott dropped over $13 billion to acquire Starwood. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't have known, was that they weren't just buying hotels and a loyalty program. Nope, they were also acquiring an active, ongoing cyber attack. This quote from the Federal Trade Commission, it really gets to the heart of the failure. There was no basic network separation. Okay, think of it like this. It's like a building with absolutely no fire doors. Once a fire starts in one room, there's nothing to stop it from spreading everywhere.
The whole due diligence process was just fundamentally broken. They didn't do a deep security audit before the purchase, and then, to make matters worse, key security staff were let go, and the old Starwood systems were basically left running in isolation, completely unmonitored. So for the attackers who were already inside, it was like the new owners never even showed up to work.
Okay, so now let's talk about the tools of the trade. How exactly did these digital ghosts move around the network and pretty much steal whatever they wanted? So first up, they installed a remote access trojan, or a RAT. This is basically a hidden backdoor. It gave the attackers a permanent foothold on the network, a kind of zombie machine they could control anytime they wanted, even if passwords were changed. And then they used a tool called Mimikatz. Now, you can think of this as a digital master key duplicator. It's this nasty little thing that reads a computer's active memory and just pulls out usernames and passwords in plain text. With this, they could walk around the network pretending to be legitimate administrators. So here's how the whole heist played out. Step 1, they got in using some stolen employee credentials. Step 2, they planted the RAT to make sure they could always get back in. Step 3, they used Mimikatz to steal more powerful keys. And then finally, they just moved freely across the network until they hit the jackpot, the guest database. And that brings us to the payload. The sheer scale of what they stole is just staggering. And the reason they stole it? Well, that's even more chilling. 500 million. Let's put that in perspective for a second. That is more than the entire population of the United States and Canada combined. 500 million guest records just exposed over 4 years. And the beta they got was a treasure trove of personal information, names, addresses, emails, all your travel details. But the most critical failure, the one that really makes you shake your head, was this. Over 5 million passport numbers were stored completely unencrypted. They were just sitting there in plain text for the taking. And here is the final twist in the story. The motive here wasn't credit card fraud or some kind of quick financial gain. U.S. intelligence ultimately concluded this was an act of state-sponsored espionage. See, this breach didn't happen in a vacuum. It was part of a much broader intelligence campaign that same year, 2014, all attributed to Chinese state-sponsored actors. They also hit the U.S. Office of Personnel Management and Anthem Health Insurance. Think about it. By combining hotel data with employment records and health records, you could build incredibly detailed movement profiles of government and intelligence personnel. So, after all that, what are the key lessons from this absolute catastrophe? How can any organization build a digital fortress to make sure this doesn't happen to them? A huge lesson here is in network design. In Starwood's flat network, getting in one door basically gave attackers access to the entire house.
A modern segmented network, on the other hand, acts more like a submarine with sealed compartments. A breach in one area is contained. It can't just flood the entire system. So the crucial takeaways are pretty clear. Security audits during mergers, they're absolutely mandatory. Multi-factor authentication, where you need a second code to log in, that's a basic necessity now. You have to monitor for strange behavior, not just known viruses. And for goodness sake, encrypt your sensitive data. Look, this all boils down to 4 non-negotiable actions for any modern business. 1. Enforce multi-factor authentication everywhere. 2. Segment your network to isolate your most valuable data. 3. Assume you're already compromised and actively hunt for threats. And 4. Encrypt sensitive personal information always, period. The Marriott breach is really a masterclass in what can go wrong when cybersecurity is just an afterthought, especially during something as big as a merger. And it forces all of us to ask a really critical question. When you acquire another company, are you also acquiring the ghosts already living in its network?